today I kind of want to go into a little bit of canning. This is something that I was raised around my entire life. My great grandma canned, my grandma cans, my mom cans. So it's kind of something that's just been passed down generation to generation, and it's kind of a lost art. I don't know if people are scared to can, afraid that they're going to mess something up and get people sick, or what, or if it's just a whole lot easier to go to the grocery store and buy things that are canned with tons of preservatives and nasty stuff. But it's something that I've done for years and years, and it's super simple. It's not hard at all, especially if you grow a garden or if you cook. Like the other day, I cooked out some chicken and I saved the broth so I can can it for later use. If you put things in your freezer, then you have to worry about the power going out or something like that, which we do here a lot because of hurricanes, and we lose a lot of stuff that's in our freezers most every year. So I would rather can stuff. My grandma, I'll never forget, my great grandma actually, she had an old shed and outside, and she kept all of her canned goods outside. They stay good for forever. People will tell you that they're good for like 5 years, but I have eaten stuff that's been canned like 10 years later. It's still good and it tastes just like it came out of the garden, so you really preserve the freshness. So the first thing I want to do in this video, it's going to kind of be a series because it's too much to go over in one video. So today I'm just going to go over some of the basics, some of the things that you may need to go out and buy, and a lot of the stuff you may already have, or your grandma may have it. Like this canner was passed down to me from my mom. This canner I bought at an old feed store. So a lot of it is relatively inexpensive. It can save you a lot of money if you can your own foods. So first we'll go over the different types of jars. Oh Lord, there's so many different types of jars, sizes, styles. I always tend to go with ball because they're really old, reliable jars. That is just the norm. But there's so many different sizes, and it kind of just depends on what you're canning to what you may want to put in your jars. Like this one, for instance, this is like 1.5 pints, I believe, but it's a wide mouth lid, so we put peanuts in this, and it's easy to get them out versus doing a quart with a smaller lid. You kind of can't get it out when you need to get your food out. So it just depends on what you're canning. And then there's quart wide mouth, so we could have done peanuts in this, I guess. So it really just depends on what you're stuffing in your jars. If you're going to can potatoes or meat, you'd probably want to use a wide mouth. Then there's half-gallon jars. I normally don't can anything in half-gallon jars, but I do put my dry goods in half-gallon jars, and I seal those. That will be for another video. But half-gallon jars are really good for dry goods like flour and coffee and cornmeal and stuff like that. And then you have these smaller jars. This is like, I guess this is a pint. It's just a whole, or maybe less than a pint, I don't know. But it's good for peppers. I most always put my peppers in this type jar. It's skinny, lid is the same width as the whole jar. And then you have your regular pint jars, a wide mouth and a regular. So a lot of times it kind of just depends on what you're canning. And then you have the smaller jelly jars. I use these a lot of times for Christmas gifts. They make really cute jam and jelly Christmas gifts. This one is 1/4 pint, and this one's like 1/8 pint. It's super small. So there's tons and tons of different size jars, so it just kind of depends on what you're canning or what you want it to look like. Some of the pint jars are blue. Ball has came back out with their blue pint jars, and they're super cute. But if you're doing something in it that you want to see, like my blueberry jams and jellies and stuff, if you were to put that in a blue jar, it wouldn't look good. So some of the other things you have to have one of these. You don't have to have one, but you would love yourself if you did. Oh gosh, I'm gonna drop it. This is a wide mouth funnel, and it works amazing. So when you're needing to put something in your jars, they fit in there perfect. So you will need a funnel, and you will need one of these things so you can grab your jar. I got that upside down like a dummy. So you can grab your jars out of the hot water. I didn't have one of these for the longest time. I just bought this thing like a year ago, and it is amazing. So what you have, this is a lid grabber. It's got a magnet on the end of it. When you are canning, you have to heat your lids because they have this kind of like a silicone seal around the outside. You put these in a pot of hot water and you need to get them out. So I always just like fished them out with a fork. I don't know why I never bought one of these. But all you have to do, and it only picks up one at a time. So if you've got several lids that are kind of stuck to each other, you put this down in your pot and whammo, you've got one lid and you can place it right on the top of your jar and you're good to go. And you'll need rings. I always save my rings. This is one thing that I hardly ever have to buy. I save these. The lids, after you use them, you probably don't want to save them because the seal kind of gets used. Some people do, but I don't. I'm not going to reuse my lids. I will just go buy more. So you'll have to have lids. If you're buying jars, the jars always come with lids on them, but if you go to a thrift store or a garage sale or something like that, a lot of times you can find mason jars. Tamp, I'm going to give you a shout out. Thank you for bringing me those mason jars. A lot of people just give them away. So get you some jars, and then all you have to do is buy your rings. The lids. You can buy the lids at Walmart or Dollar Store or wherever, and they're really not expensive. And then you'll have to have a canner. There's so many different types of canners. I didn't bring my Instapot out here, but if you have an Instapot, some varieties of Instapot have a canning option, which is super freaking simple. If you're worried about a canner blowing up, because a lot of people, all of my years, I have heard stories about canners blowing up. So I was always scared to use one. The canner is not gonna explode unless you have like a marathon bomber or something in your neighborhood. Shots fired. No, seriously. The canner is not gonna blow up. People will tell you stories, a canner blew up, blah, 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 whatever. No, the canner is not going to blow up unless you take the lid off of it before it has cooled down. A pressure canner. A water bath canner is not going to explode because it doesn't get over 212 degrees. You can boil water all day long and it's still going to be 212 degrees. But a pressure canner has a lid that locks. It gets a whole lot hotter inside a pressure canner than it does a water bath canner. So, make sure that you always check your seal. It's got a rubber seal on the inside. Make sure you check your seal. Make sure your seal is always good. And the pressure canner will have, this one's super stained up, but it will have a plate in the bottom to keep your cans from rattling around. You don't want your jars touching the bottom of the pan. So they all have that. And then most of them will have this handy dandy gauge on the top. This gauge lets you know how much pressure is inside the pot. And then it has this little, I don't even know, it's a weight, a pressure weight or whatever. But once your canner gets going, it kind of rattles, and then it closes off the pressure. And this thing right here kind of releases the pressure as needed be. So that's kind of your pressure canner. But it's not going to explode on you, so do not take the lid off before it has cooled down. And even at that point, if you do take the lid off, the pot itself is not going to explode. The stuff that's on the inside of it, your jars and all your goodies that you got, all of that, yes, will explode. Your jars will explode all over your house. So you don't want to do that because you're going to lose your jars and you're going to lose stuff in your jars and you're going to have a big freaking mess and probably burn yourself. So don't take the lid off before it has completely cooled down. And then you have a water bath canner. This is my favorite thing to use. It's what I use most of the time. It's super duper simple. So all that you have to do with this, You just put water in it and make sure that your water is like an inch above your jars. We will go all over this again in the next episode, or one of the episodes, but it has this little rack in here. And you can put your jars on the rack, put it down in there, or put your jars in there like so, and then fill it up with water and let your stuff can. It is super simple to water bath can stuff. And there's tons of other ways to can, but I will save that for the next episode. So the biggest thing with canning is it's easy. It's not hard as everybody says it is. It's great for people who are self-reliant, kind of off the grid kind of people. And if you just want to be prepared in case your power goes out. But it's super simple, guys. Really easy. I'll catch y'all on the next episode.